Okay, good morning, Year 6. Welcome to another week of online learning. I hope you've had a nice weekend and that you managed to get outside and do some things. It is Monday, the 11th of January, and this week we are going to be introducing you to a short story, which is one that we've used before in Year 6. It always really engages the classes. They like finding out what happens. There's some good language in it, and there's a good twist as well. So we are going to start the week by looking at some comprehension questions, and we're going to move on tomorrow to collecting some language, which you can use in your writing on Wednesday. We're going to do a short write on Thursday, linked to something that happens in the story, and then on Friday we're going to be returning and doing a little bit of analysis of the text. So it's a really exciting week. We enjoy teaching this one and hope that you're going to enjoy it too. So today, Monday the 11th of January, we're going to answer questions accurately with evidence. Now, you know that we've been talking about using evidence a lot in the autumn term, so really thinking about what we're reading and where we're finding the answers to those questions. So the text that we're looking at this week, all of these pictures that we put on the slides are connected to what happens in it. So I just want you to have a little think. We do this a lot in class. What do you think the book might be about? What do you think the story might be about? Where do you think it might be set? What characters will it have in it? What might the theme be? Just have a little think. You might want to pause the slides whilst you have a little think. Okay. So you might have some ideas, you might have shared some ideas with people at home, and we're going to move on. So keep those pictures in your head and they might come up over the next few days. So the types of questions that we're particularly focusing on today to answer are retrieval, word meaning, and inference. Now, you will have come across those different types of questions during Key Stage 2, and I wonder what you can remember about these types of questions. You might not be able to remember anything, and that's absolutely fine. That's what we're doing this lesson for. So pause the slides, maybe have a little think, and see if you can remember. So retrieval questions, word meaning, and inference. Okay, so we're just going to go through those. So word meaning. These questions are all about giving and explaining the meaning of words and phrases in the text. So showing that you understand what a word or phrase means. So it's like you are being the dictionary and explaining why they've been used. Retrieval. There are lots of different types of retrieval questions, and they often ask you to find key information in answer to questions which begin who, what, where, when, why, how. So you have to go off and find that information from the text. Sometimes the answers are right there and easy to spot, but sometimes you need to dig a little deeper. And you can see I put a picture of a dog on here. So think about, you have to go off, look in the text, a bit like when a dog goes off to find a stick when you've thrown it for them. You've got to go off, search around in the text, find the answer and bring it back. And sometimes that answer might be quite well hidden. So think of that when you're looking for it. Think about, you're that little dog searching around in the undergrowth for the answer. Finally, inference questions. So these need you to look for clues to find your answer. So they will quite often say, how do you know? What evidence is there? Prove this. And you find the evidence and then you answer the question. So it's like you're being a bit of a detective. So those are the three types of questions we're going to be looking at today. So now we've looked at some of the different question types that might appear in this lesson, we're going to return to the story. And I wonder what ideas you had when you saw these pictures. So there's shells, there's binoculars, there's some types of birds, there's a mine, and there's also an old-fashioned measurement of how you measure the depth of the sea and something about the speed of boats. So I wish we were in class together so I could hear some of your great ideas, because I know you would all have some. So keep them in your head, and we're going to read the first part. But before we do that, on the website, you can find the opening pages we're looking at today. You can read it yourself, or you can read it with me. It's your choice. You don't have to listen to me read it, but we've got those options for you. Whilst you're listening to me read the first few pages, or whilst you're reading it yourself, we'd like you to think about the character of Cherry and jot down any information you can find out about her. Now you can see here that I've started a brainstorm about Cherry. Now I haven't written in sentences, I'm just jotting down notes about everything that I find out about her. Okay, so that's what we'd like you to do whilst you're reading or whilst you're listening to me read. The Giant's Necklace. There's a little bit at the beginning where the author has written. He says, "For many years I used to go every summer to Zennor. I read Cornish legends, researched the often tragic history of tin mining in Penwith, wandered the wild moors above Zennor Churchtown, and I wrote a book of 5 short stories called The White Horse of Zennor. This is the first." So, let's start. The necklace stretched from one end of the kitchen table to the other, around the sugar bowl at the far end and back again, stopping only a few inches short of the toaster. The discovery on the beach of a length of abandoned fishing line draped with seaweed had first suggested the idea to Cherry, and every day of the holiday since then had been spent in one single-minded pursuit, the creation of a necklace of glistening pink cowrie shells. She had sworn to herself and to everyone else that the necklace would not be complete until it reached the toaster. And when Cherry vowed she would do something, she invariably did it. Cherry was the youngest in a family of older brothers, 4 of them, who had teased her relentlessly since the day she was born 11 years before. She referred to them as the 4 mistakes, for it was a family joke that each son had been an attempt to produce a daughter. To their huge delight, Cherry reacted passionately to any slight or insult, whether intended or not. Their particular targets were her size, which was diminutive compared with theirs, and her dark, flashing eyes that could wither with one scornful look, her zapping look, they called it. Although the teasing was interminable, it was rarely hurtful, nor was it intended to be, for her brothers adored her, and she knew it. Cherry was poring over her necklace, still in her dressing gown. Breakfast had been cleared away, and she was alone with her mother. She fingered the shells lightly, turning them gently until the entire necklace lay flat, with the rounded pink of the shells all uppermost. Then she bent down, breathed on each one of them in turn, polishing them carefully with a napkin. "There's still the sea in them," she said to no one in particular. "You can still smell it, and I washed them and washed them, you know." "You've only got today, Cherry," said her mother, coming over to the table and putting an arm round her. "Just today, that's all. We're off back home tomorrow morning, first thing. Why don't you call it a day, dear? You've been at it every single moment of the holiday. You must be tired of it by now. There's no need to go on, you know. We all think it's a fine necklace and quite long enough." "It's long enough, surely." Cherry shook her head slowly. "Nope," she said. "Only that little bit left to do, and then it'll be finished." "But they'll take hours to collect, dear," her mother said weakly, recognising and at the same time respecting her daughter's persistence. "Only a few hours," said Cherry, bending over, her brows furrowing critically as she inspected a flaw in one of her shells. That's all it'll take. Do you know there are 5,325 shells in my necklace already? I counted them, so I know." "Isn't that enough, Cherry?" her mother said desperately. "No," said Cherry. "I said I'd reach the toaster, and I'm going to reach the toaster." Her mother turned away to continue the drying up. "Well, I can't spend all day on the beach today, Cherry," she said. "If you haven't finished by the time we come away, I'll have to leave you there. We've got to pack up and tidy the house. There'll be no time in the morning." I'll be all right, said Cherry, cocking her head on one side to view the necklace from a different angle. There's never been a necklace like this before. Not in all the world. I'm sure there hasn't. And then, you can leave me there, Mum. And I'll walk back. It's only a mile or so along the cliff path and half a mile back across the fields. I've done it before on my own. It's not far. There was a thundering on the stairs and a sudden rude invasion of the kitchen. Cherry was surrounded by her 4 brothers who leant over the table in mock appreciation of her necklace. Oh, pretty. Do they come in other colours? I mean, pink is not my colour. Is it for an elephant? It's for a giant, said Cherry. It's a giant's necklace, and it's still not big enough. It was the perfect answer. An answer she knew would send her brothers into fits of laughter. She loved to make them laugh at her and could do it at the drop of a hat. Of course, she no more believed in giants than they did, but if it tickled them pink to believe she did, then why not pretend? She turned on them, fists flailing, and chased them back up the stairs, her eyes burning with simulated fury. Just because you don't believe in anything except motorbikes, football, and all that rubbish, just because you're great big ignorant pigs. She hurled insults up the stairs, and the worse the insult, the more they loved it. Okay, so that is the opening to the story that we're looking at today, or this week, and I hope you enjoyed it. So we get quite a lot of information about Cherry, and you might have started to draw some conclusions about the type of person she is, the type of character she is. So pause the video whilst you complete your brainstorm. So anything that you found out about her, add it to your brainstorm. Okay, so hopefully you've managed to pop lots of things on your piece of work, and I want you to compare your notes with mine and see if you think there is anything I have missed. So you can see I've got things like she is on holiday in Boat Cove, Zennor, Cornwall. She's making a necklace, and I've written down how many shells there were. She's the youngest in her family. She's got 4 brothers. I've put she's easy to wind up. So I think her brothers like to tease her quite a bit. She seems quite fiery, so she quite likes to sort of play fight with them. I've also written that she's a perfectionist. She doesn't want any shells that are damaged at all. She wants them all to be flawless. So there's just a few of the things that I've put down, but I'm sure you've managed to think of lots of other things. Now, going on to our main task. Today we're going to be answering questions about the text that we've read. Now, the first question we're going to do together, and I want you to consider this. What impression do we get of Cherry? Explain your ideas using 2 pieces of evidence from the text. So that's asking us, what do we think Cherry is like? Now, we've already got lots of ideas from our brainstorm, but what we need to do now is we need to put that into some coherent answer, so a clear answer. So, using the brainstorm and ideas we've collected about Cherry, what words would you use to describe her? Now you can see I've got some up here already. I've got determined, persistent, fiery, funny, and resilient. You might agree with me, you might not agree with me, but you might have some of your own ideas. So again, I would pause the video so you can write down some ideas that you think would describe Cherry's character. Okay, so now we've got those words that we think describe Cherry. We need to think about where the evidence is in the text. So we need to prove our ideas. We need to back them up. We need to justify them. And you know that we talk about that a lot when we're in class together. So we need to look at that text in more detail. So I've taken determined, and I've thought about all the things we found out about Cherry, and this is my answer. I think Cherry is determined because she has been making a necklace of shells for her entire holiday and will not stop until it reaches from the sofa to the toaster. Another reason I think this is because her mum tries to talk her out of completing it, and she insists that she will finish it before the holiday ends. Nothing will stop her. So let's just pop back and look at that question that we were asking you to answer. What impression do we get of Cherry? Explain your ideas using 2 pieces of evidence from the text. So we go back to my answer. I think Cherry is determined. So I've explained what we think her character, what impression I get of her. I think she's determined. And then I've used evidence from the text. I've used 2 pieces of evidence to back up my idea. I've said she's determined because she's been making this shell necklace for her whole holiday and won't stop till it is a certain length. Then I put another reason, and it's because her mum tries to talk her out of it, but she says, no, I'm not going to stop. So those things show me that she's determined, and I've taken the ideas, I've looked for the ideas in the text. You can imagine you're a detective with your magnifying glass, and then I've taken them out of the text and I've put them into my own words. So that is an inference question, and hopefully it's reminded you of how to answer those sorts of questions. So your task, there are questions on the video which you can pause and work through, or you can open them on the website, whatever's easiest for you. If you're able to, you can print them out. Otherwise, just write the answers on paper. Do what works for you. Remember, think carefully about what the question is asking you and how to answer it accurately. It's a good idea to go back to the question once you've answered it and think, does my answer actually answer the question which was being asked? Now, the questions are going to be a mixture of retrieval, word meaning, and inference. So see if you can recognise the different types as you read and answer them. It might help to think of those pictures that I put on at the start. So the jumble of words, so you're being like a dictionary and working out the meaning and what they add to the piece of writing. Are they retrieval? So are you having to be, imagine that dog going off and finding a stick. Are you having to go off and rummage around in the text and find an answer and bring it back? Or are you being a detective? Are you looking for clues and then explaining how those clues prove what you think? So we've also put answers on the website for when you have finished. So these are the questions. This is what it will be. This is what they will look like. And you can see there are different types on there. There are 9 questions altogether. So keep hold of your Cherry Brainstorm for later in the week as well. So don't lose that because we'll be using it on Thursday. But for now, enjoy answering your questions. Hope you get on okay, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday morning. Okay.